Welcome everyone to our Posh podcast. I'm Gabrielle and I'm your host alongside my beautiful daughter Marcella.
Hello.
And our DJ Spider.
Hello.
And our beautiful guest that is back for her second episode, continuation of her amazing, beautiful and difficult life. Miss Kyrie Barnes. Yes. Her journey and her tagline is making a mess. No, wait.
Making a mess.
Making a mess out of a message. No, making a message out of a mess.
That other one sounds interesting.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
So welcome back.
Thank you.
And I really would encourage everyone to listen to her first episode so you can kind of get the beginning of her story and what continues next. Like we ended the first show with her mom passing away from drugs and now it's just her brother and her 2 children, and she had just gotten through a divorce. And start right there and take us further.
Take it away. Well, the crazy thing was after the passing, there was actually a criminal investigation opened up on behalf of her on-again, off-again boyfriend because of neglect, like negligence on his part.
14 hours?
14 hours,
That's
yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, so they were trying
He waited. She had a stroke. He waited 14 hours
before taking her to the
With
hospital.
strokes, it's like the sooner the better.
Yeah.
You're supposed to like within 30 minutes in order to reverse it. Yeah, but because it was so long, there was permanent damage done because of it. So then the investigator that was assigned to the case, I mean, he was great. And I think the state we live in is just crappy because I just don't feel like the job is done efficient.
In Oregon?
And yeah,
Okay.
so they wouldn't go, to his house. They wouldn't try to get a warrant to look. He wouldn't give my brother and I any of her stuff. He withheld all of her stuff from us because he wasn't allowed to be there. So it was like this power and control thing he had over us. So we went through this investigation, for 6-7 months. They did a toxicology report to make sure that nothing was in her system. I mean, you name it, but then they screwed up on the blood once, so they had to redo it again. It was just a mess. And having to go through that, kind of thinking, wow, he had a huge part in why she passed.
Right.
That in itself is hard to process on top of your mom no longer being present.
How old was your mom?
She was 44.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Yeah, she was 44.
That is young.
Yeah, she was young. But so we went through that, and my brother was my rock, and my grandma, because I was like, well, who's going to help me take care of my kids? Because I have bills to pay and, kids to take care of, and I don't have anybody anymore. And so my grandma stepped in and, she did a great job. But it's crazy because it wasn't even 3 months, 4 months after she passed, my grandmother had a stroke.
No.
And so she couldn't do it anymore. And within the same week of that, the kid's father went to rehab.
Oh my goodness.
With not even a day's notice, just up and left. And I didn't know what was going on.
And what was his, just alcohol?
Drugs and alcohol.
Drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And was he on what drugs?
I'm not sure at the time.
Oh,
I never really kept like tabs on that.
Yeah. Like I have too much else going on.
So I was, I was with someone at the time, I had just gotten into a relationship probably about a month and 2 weeks after my mom passed. And it was a beautiful thing. I had support from him, and he was just like, you know what, you stay home. I'm going to take care of the bills. You need to be with your kids. This is only right. So I had him and my brother for that season of my life, but I was struggling. Because I had a divorce. I lost my mom. I went through my grandma trying to recover from her stroke. And luckily she was fine and they caught it quick enough. And then fast forward, it wasn't even, 6 months after that. It was in February. That was in September. This was in February. So it was a great, few months. I had some peace and happiness and finally found, love, and the kids were happy. And then February rolled around and my brother got really sick. And mind you, my brother's 26, healthy, gorgeous man, took really good care of himself, never drank, never smoked, nothing like that. And he got really sick, just like the flu. So he went into urgent care with his girlfriend at the time. And he's like, I'm really sick. Just want to let you know. I'll keep you up to date. And he was my rock. We got through all of our firsts together. So the first without having your parent always hard. Birthdays, Christmases, just any type of first. So we got through that together and we spent a lot of time together. And so him being sick, I'm like, ooh, like, I hope you're okay. And it wasn't until he called me like a few hours later. He's like, I have such a bad headache. Their strongest narcotic won't knock it out. So they're concerned. So they're sending me in for a CT. Well, they found a mass on the front right side of his brain. And so they had to take him in for surgery that night to remove the mass. It was about a grape-sized mass. And they said it was an infection. And I'm like, how the hell do you get an infection in your brain? Like, where does that come from? And they said, well, his case was like 1 in a million, just super rare, caused from either teeth issues or sinus issues. Who would have thought, right? So they say. So he went in for surgery that night. They, removed they removed it and they didn't cut in too much of his head, but that's like scary.
Yeah.
I don't have my mom here. My dad and we weren't talking because, my mom's passing to him was hard, so he kind of shut down and we didn't really talk. So I felt like I almost lost both parents, And so my brother was like my only thing that I had outside of my grandmother and, my boyfriend at the time. And so I was like praying, Lord, please, let him get through this. He's a tough kid. He's strong. And so he went through that, pulled through. My grandmother drove down to be with me and she went to go, we swapped like roles on keeping watch over him. And she had called me one night. It was like the first night after his surgery or second night after his surgery, excuse me. And she was like, something's wrong. Like something's not right. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, don't tell me that. Like last time that happened, like this went horrible. Like, don't tell me that. She's like, it's just something's not right with him. And I was like, okay. And sure enough, she came home and she said, Carrie, like, I'm just worried about him. And we got a phone call and it was the second day after his surgery. His brain started to swell. And bleeding started to happen on his brain. So his body started to comatose.
Oh,
and
my God.
My dad and I had to rush down to the hospital because they said, if you do not come down here and make a decision, he's not going to make it.
Yeah. Again?
Yes, again. I thought I was literally, it was a joke. I'm like, this is someone's playing a prank on me. This isn't funny. Like, this just happened to me not even 9 months before with my mom. This is my brother. Like, this is insane. Like, this is not happening. They get to the hospital and my dad's frantic, and the doctor comes in and tells us, like, here's the option, if we remove the right cranial off, just like they had offered for my mom, the brain's going to allow to be, it'll swell out. So what happens if the brain has nowhere to swell, it shuts down and everything shuts down and you die from that, apparently. And if we allow the brain to swell out, his chance of survival are so high. So we feel because of his age and his health that this is the best option for him. And we need to make a decision quick. So I told my dad, sign that right now. Like, don't even question yourself right now. I said, he needs you to be this voice and I'm going to tell you for you or I'll sign it for you. You need to sign these papers. He needs this opportunity to be able to pull through this. And I was trying to think clearly, because lo and behold, like my mind was still scattered from my mom and I had PTSD from my mom, it affects you. So they're like, okay, we're going to let you go back there and say goodbye to him. I'm like, just in case. And I'm like, what? They don't tell me that. Like, say goodbye to him. Like, I'm just going to go see him. Mm-hmm. This way I'm going to look at it and I'm going to make sure that, you pray and all that. So my dad and I and his girlfriend were all back in the ICU and I'm sitting there and my dad's to my right and his girlfriend's to my left. And I'm standing there watching my brother with this tube in his mouth and he's convulsing and his body is shutting down because there's no decision that had been made. So obviously they're in the process of getting things ready for him. And I'm watching this and instead of crying, I find myself become very angry. I'm just so angry and just like, this is not fair. Mm-hmm. This is the most selfless person that I know. Yeah. And he's been my rock and my kids' rock. And this is happening to him. Why is this happening? And I'm watching my dad cry for the first time and freak out. And I'm watching her and I'm not crying because I'm so angry. Mm-hmm. And I left there, and that's when I broke down. And I was just like, this is not fair. He does not deserve this.
Mm-hmm.
And he pulled through the surgery, and, he had a huge indentation in his head, and he was normal, just like, you and I, and he just had to wear a helmet. He would wear a helmet every day just to protect, because the cranial removal, they put the cap back on, so the skin, but the brain's right there.
Right.
So they have to protect it. So he had to do that for 3 months, and he did therapy, and he was doing great. And I kid you not, like, my grandma's like, let's go to Disneyland. I'm like, oh my God, perfect. Let's go to Disneyland. Look, we need to get out of here. Because, I forgot to mention, oh my gosh, this is just how crazy this time of my life was. In the same week, my brother had his incident. My grandfather, who I was super close to, passed away.
Oh my gosh.
In the same week. So I had to plan his memorial and go through all this stuff with my brother. And so that's why my grandma was like, we need to get away. We need to go to Disneyland, because we're all going through stuff. Like, there's too many
We
loss.
need to escape.
Right? So we go to Disneyland, and I told my brother, do not schedule your replacement surgery, because they freeze the skull and they go in and replace it, 3 to 4 months later.
So it takes away that indentation? Is that
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they put the skull back on. And so I said, do not, go in and do your surgery until I get back. And 'cause I was there every appointment, everything. And I was trying to be there like if my mom was there.
Yeah.
And so little stinker calls me, and he's like, I have an opportunity to go in on Wednesday, it was, and I'm going to do it. Like, oh my gosh, like I could strangle you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not there. Like, why? He's like, everything's going to be okay. I have my girlfriend here, and everything's going to be fine. I'm like, okay, just please keep me in the loop. So Wednesday rolls around. We're having a great time. Kids' first trip to Disneyland, and they got to the beach for the first time. And I'm trying to just get out of that negative space that we're in for so long and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so my brother, he texted me, I miss you so much. Can't wait to see you, because we were going to be going home on Thursday of that week. And he was going in for surgery that morning, and things went fine. And my dad kept me up to date, and his girlfriend kept me up to date, on what was going on with him. And it wasn't until 3 days after his surgery, we're driving home from California. Like, it's a 17-hour drive back home. And we get into Klamath Falls, which is about probably 5 hours maybe from where home was. And I get a call from my dad. And I could tell it wasn't good right off the get-go from my response. My uncle and aunt were with me too, and my grandma. And he was looking to talk to me. And I was like, oh no, like this isn't good. Because I knew he had just had surgery. He's like, I have some really bad news. Your brother was doing fine. And then he got home, and his pupils dilated, and he pretty much passed out almost. So now he's back in surgery, and the doctor said it doesn't look good.
What?
Yeah. And I can't get to him. Like, I'm 5 hours in a car, and I'm like, what do you mean it doesn't look good? He's like, the doctors just said there's too much bleeding and swelling on the brain, because apparently they were supposed to wait 10 days before putting him on blood thinners, but they waited 3 days.
Isn't this what happened to Dominique? The whole
Something like
something
that.
like that. Yeah.
So that was on their bad. Like, that it shouldn't even happened. And so
Oh
that caused
my
the bleeding on the
God.
brain. And so my dad's like, I just want to let you know, like, he's just not doing good. The doctor said it doesn't look good. So, like, this is not happening. I may never see my brother again. Like, what the hell is going on? Like, this is not fair. Like, who goes through this in much adversity, in 2 years it had been since, the start of the divorce and everything. And so I remember getting home, and they said, please don't come to the hospital right now. He's in induced coma right now. He needs to be that way to keep him resting, and go to see him first thing in the morning. Well, my boyfriend at the time comes in, because my phone apparently is blowing up, and I'm scared to get a call again from the doctor. Like, I'm terrified, because the last time I got a call from the doctor, it wasn't good news.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you got a phone call? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got a phone call. Who was it? And he's like, it was your brother's girlfriend, and he had to be rushed in for surgery again this morning for bleeding on the brain again. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I remember he's like, go. I got the kids, go.
Mm-hmm.
So I get in my car, and I'm hauling, and I don't speed, but I felt the need to get there as fast as I could. And I got there and they're like, we have him in an induced coma. You know, we controlled the bleeding. We put a drain in. But in between all of the surgeries he had in from that Wednesday on, he ended up stroking 5 times in his brain. 3 in his stem, 1 in his thalamus, and 1 in just a general part of his brain. So he wasn't able to, he wasn't able to talk, like project his voice, and he wasn't able to move his left side. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. What do you mean he stroked 5 times? It was just too much trauma to the brain, blah, 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 blah.
Oh my goodness.
All this medical terminology I couldn't really like wrap my head around because I was still processing what they had just said, like stroked. And so going there and just seeing him and holding his hand, I felt so helpless.
Right.
Like this is an absolute nightmare. Like, why is it that I feel like I'm getting picked on?
Mm-hmm.
You feel like,
Right.
all these bad things keep happening to you. Like, what did I do wrong in my life?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to be a good mother and try to provide and try to be a good person, friend, sister. And I remember that was the hardest time for me because I didn't have my mom. My dad and I weren't very close. And so I was having to go to the hospital to take care of him, to feed him, to listen to the doctors. And he had so many different problems, blood clots and surgeries because they found AVMs, which are clots in his lungs, and all of these problems. Yeah, he was in the hospital for a long time. And so his girlfriend and I switched off, and I just became just depressed.
Yeah.
I was so depressed and just sad because this is my brother. Like, I've already lost so much, and I lost that part of him.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't talk to him like I was able to before.
Right.
I couldn't interact with him like I was able to before. And I was just like, he's not the same person. He's there, but he's not. And I think the saddest part for me during the whole process of him trying to recover is him telling me, I feel trapped.
Oh,
I know what I'm supposed to do, but I can't do
Right.
it.
right.
And I couldn't help him.
Right.
So it just creates this anger.
Right.
It creates this anger. And not necessarily, you don't want to be angry with God, but you're just angry because it's just such an unfortunate thing
Right.
that's happened to such a good person. And, we got through so much together.
Mm-hmm.
And now he was having to fight for his well-being. And he
Mhm.
became depressed, and he didn't want to go on with his life anymore. And it was like juggling all of that on top of taking care of 2 kids. Like, I became super depressed, emotionally unstable. I was trying to be the best mother and work and just juggle everything. And
Do you still have the boyfriend at this moment?
I still have the
Okay.
boyfriend at this moment. Yeah. He was, the best thing in all of this. And I think because of my emotional instability at the time and not really thinking clearly and really trying to get through, PTSD of dealing with what I saw with my mom and my brother, just little things would set me off.
Yeah.
Little things, not normal things like that would ever set me off. They would just be like these triggers. And it just happened to be like one argument led into something. It was stupid. And I ended up telling him to leave. 'Cause I wasn't thinking. And that was it for us. Almost 2 years. And this is the person, I saw myself marrying, and all of that. And he didn't come back. I was like, what did I just do? Like, I
Yeah.
just messed that up. I've never just messed that up. And it was almost another loss.
Yeah.
But it was worse because
He was good.
he was good. Exactly. And he was still present, but I couldn't get it back. Like, I tried.
Right.
I'm like, let's work on things. I'm so sorry. And obviously time makes you realize, the intentions and heart of a person. And I think that was the hardest thing for me, is realizing what I had let go
Right.
because of not seeing clearly
Right.
and reacting out of anger, which destroys so much good.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how to process what just happened because we just got a place together.
Oh God.
So having to take over that lease by myself and work and take care of kids and my brother and everything, it was just a chaotic mess. Just a mess. And granted, through the mess, you're strengthened and you can be refined, and but that doesn't mean it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us what happened next.
So going through that and losing that relationship, I beat myself up terribly.
I can imagine, yeah.
I beat myself up. And the kid's dad and I were, we were getting along at the time, trying to be good co-parents and trying to be civil. And, he was back from rehab. And he seemed to be okay, but then I noticed that he was drinking again. It's like, this is crazy. But one night of me, and I'm not a drinker at all. Like, I don't drink just because I don't want to follow in the footsteps of how I grew up and what I saw. So I very seldom drink. So it's very occasional. One night of drinking and being tipsy led to us getting together, and I got pregnant. I got pregnant, but I was so vulnerable,
Right.
Because I wanted to feel something,
Right.
and it obviously, if I could, I wouldn't ever redo that because my baby is like, she's the most beautiful blessing ever. But it's just in the midst of that, you're not thinking, and because I'm still coming out of being abused,
right?
You don't think the way you should think. So I found out I was pregnant. That was insane. That was like, what? Like, how am I going to explain this to him? He's not going to believe me. He didn't believe me the first time.
Right.
And so sure enough, I try to tell him, and it didn't go over very well. He was like, oh, really? Are you sure it's mine? I think, and he goes, I want a paternity test. And he kept trying to tell me I want a paternity test. And I'm like, this is insane. I'm like, what did I do, God? What did I do? But in the midst of all of this, like, I could feel my mom. As silly as that sounds, like, I knew she had my back. And so I was like, well, maybe I, try to work it out with him. Maybe that's the best thing to do. So we tried going to counseling together. That ended real fast because I quickly saw nothing changed. It was constant point the finger at you. You're the bad guy. You're the fault of this. You did that. It's like, no. And that ended like
Fast.
Very, very fast. I said, I can't do this. This isn't happening. And I felt stupid, but then again, I was like, obviously every life has a purpose, and this baby is meant to be here. And it was really reassured too. Like, my mom, she kind of had a huge part in my third child, because her best friend came to me and she's like, I had the craziest vision. I don't know if you guys are like into visions and like dreams and stuff like that, but she's like, I have to tell you something. I had the most realistic vision of your mother, this experience with your mother, and I have to tell you. And I was having a hard time accepting like what had happened. I'm pregnant again. What am I going to do? And it's with him of all people. And so apparently, she was with my mom. She said she's in this beautiful, beautiful place. It was bright and the grass was greener than green. And she's like, did you have a dog that was a golden retriever? And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I did have a dog, a golden retriever. He was just running in the background. I was like, that's Jasper. Oh my gosh. She goes, your mom looks so beautiful, Carrie.
Oh
And
my
she's
gosh, that's so cool.
She's so happy. She goes, but I have to tell you something. She goes, I looked at her and she was like, I've missed you. And I was like, okay, like, what are you trying to say to me? And she's like, I told her I missed her. She said, I missed you too. That she's doing so amazing. She goes, then I look down and she's holding this beautiful pink bundle. And she hands this pink bundle to me, she's saying, and I look down and it's this baby. And she goes, your mom tells me, she goes, tell Kyrie that this is hers. This is Gracie. And tell her I love her so, so much. And, that I'm proud of her.
That is so cool.
And I was just like, what? Like, this is crazy. This is so crazy. And mind you, this is 3 months before I found out I was pregnant.
Oh,
That's
wow.
the craziest thing about it.
Oh.
So when I found out I was pregnant, I was
Your
just
mom.
like, this is insane. Like, what? And then when we found out it was a girl, like within a minute,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, Mom, like, you're here with me. And so it brought some comfort knowing I was going through such a hell of a time in my life and not really knowing like what to think. Like, I felt stupid. I was like, but you're not stupid. Like, you've been through a lot.
I feel like you have lost so much, but then the babies, it's like, that's like your gift.
Oh, absolutely.
And is your little
Makes me
girl's
teary.
name Gracie?
We named her Gracelyn. Yeah.
Oh.
Gracelyn Kimberly after, well, My
Yeah.
mom's Kimberly. But that time of my life was really hard because that abuse came right back. Like it was mentally, emotionally, verbally, you name it, but like heightened times 10. It just wasn't right in the head. And I quickly recognized it. Thank the Lord with everything that I had gone through. And it's certain signs to be aware of that maybe you weren't aware of before. But knowing who you are as a person, because I had become very strong with who I was.
I'm sure.
Well, I think it happens with your age too. I feel like not that older women can't happen to, but I feel like if you've gone through it before, like you almost get and you find yourself again, it's very difficult. Like you recognize it faster.
Absolutely.
I think, after
Yeah.
you've gone through
For
stuff.
sure.
But
So take us fast forward, and then you moved to Dallas.
so I talked to my aunt and I told her what was going on. And I said, I'm sick. I'm having a hard time working. So I was working in a surf shop at the time, designing surfboards. And I was like, I can't pay my rent. Like I was down to like maybe 2 months left of my lease. And I was like, I can't pay my rent. Things are really bad with him and I. Like, it's just not good. I need to get away. Like, this isn't healthy for me. And I will be damned if I put myself in this situation again.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And so I had asked, if it was okay, if I moved, because you have to be careful, like moving kids, when you have custody and stuff like that. And things were fine. And so he decides to threaten me and, say that if I move that he's going to call the cops on me and all of this crap, this crazy, crazy stuff. Even though before he said it was totally fine. It's totally fine. I trust, your aunt and uncle are the best people for these kids and you're a really good mother and you want to give them a better life. But then I'm getting threats, if you do this, if you do that, if you don't do this, if you don't, I need you to, pay me back child support and stuff like that. Because just one thing after the next. If you don't give me this money, I'm going to call the cops. If you don't do this, I'm going to call a lawyer. Like one thing after the next. And I just knew like, this is the enemy, like trying so hard to keep me from what it is that I'm destined to do. And I made that decision. My aunt had come down for my brother. He had one last replacement surgery, because I'd been with him for so long and helping take care of him that he knew it was time for me to get away.
And how is your brother now?
He's better.
Yeah.
He's 5 years now. He's currently in a nursing home,
Okay.
learning how to redo certain things. It took him a while to learn how to walk again. And now he's walking without assistance or his cane, which is huge. And he even tried jogging the other day. So he's making huge leaps and bounds regardless of everything that's kind of happened. But I try to encourage him the best that I can because he needs it. Eventually he wants to come over here because apparently Dallas has some really amazing facilities.
They do.
So we hope that
They
happens.
do. We know several people that are dealing with brain injuries and stuff like that. So that's definitely a really good idea.
Well, we'll see once he gets to more of an independent point to get him back over here. So yeah, he's good. But
So then you move here.
mhm.
That's when we met you.
Yep.
And
Okay, so that's when I met you. I was
That's
trying
when
to
we met
wonder
her.
when
Yeah.
I met you.
that's when we met her, and that's when I fell in love with you immediately. It's just her sweet soul and everything. And she became one of our models, and she was so inspiring to me because I knew what you had, not in that much detail, but I knew you had been through a lot, and you had 3 little children, and you're working all these jobs, and yet we're doing a photo shoot and she's there looking like $1 million. And,
You would never know.
Just like with this killer body. And I'm like, how does she do all this? This is insane. So I always wanted the best for you. And then you also got in a terrible situation with a landlord while you were here. And that was just, I was like, how much else can this girl, like, what else is going to happen to her? And then I know we talked a little bit here or there, and then you had met someone that kind of made you happy. I saw it in her eyes, and I was like, who is this person? Really, I mean, you just were excited, and he was going to come see you. And then take us fast forward a little bit. What happened then?
So, we talked for about a year because I was like, I'm going to get to know a person.
Yeah.
And I always found myself attracted to men that were like the gorgeous type, the big guys that worked out, that had the biggest egos and the worst personalities. That ended very, very poorly. So I was like, you know what? You know, he's got a great heart. He's good looking, but he's nice.
Mm-hmm.
I've never just dated a nice guy.
Yeah.
It's always been, you know, for the looks or something, which is stupid. So I said, I'm going to try to see if this works. So, but I want to get to know him.
Yeah.
I want to get to know him and see how that goes, friendship first, because I'm not repeating the same thing again. I was already going through enough grief of trying to get over like my relationship that I was so happy with.
Right.
And it took me 3 years almost.
Wow.
Which is crazy. But meeting him, it was like, okay, maybe I'll find that spark again.
Yeah.
And we did, you know, some fun things together. He came down from Seattle and you know, we were like kids, you know, and he was great with the kids. And he helped me with the house because, yes, I was in a horrible landlord situation. I thought it was great. You know, I have my own place that I'm providing for these kids, which is an exciting thing as a single mom, because I was a single mom for almost 6 years.
Yeah.
And so you find your own place to make home, you know, because I had put myself through school, cosmetology school, while I was pregnant with Gracelyn and I was working. So all of that hard work was paying off to get this place. And had, you know, my license finally, and I was ready to like conquer the world. Mm-hmm. And so we get into this place, and then Alex and I, you know, were like, okay, well, let's take things to the next step. Clearly there's something there. And so it wasn't until I had found out my brother wasn't doing well. He just was depressed and things just weren't going well. I'm like, what's going on? And I'm not there. I'm halfway across the U.S., so it's not like I can just hop in a car and go see him, kind of check in on him. I tried to check in on him, you know, FaceTime as much as I could, but when, you know, he has a weird schedule. So I was like, okay, God, what is this? So we're like, we talked about, okay, well, maybe I just move back to help. Not permanently, but just to help him get on his feet because he needs somebody. He doesn't have my mom. He, you know, my dad, he goes and he's with him twice a week, but it's just he needs more. He's lacking something. And him and his girlfriend at the time, you know, went through a really, really, really bad breakup, and he was heartbroken over that. So he was depressed. And so we talked, and Alex had left and went back to Oregon, and he was like, okay, well, we'll move you back down here. And I was dreading it. I kid you not. Like, yeah, it's home, but I'm happy here. But my brother needs me. So it's kind of like this catch-22. Like, you want to be the big sister and help, but you don't want to go back to that roots because you just left there. Yeah. And so much bad is there.
Right.
And so he had flown up and helped me pack that lovely place of mine. We sold everything, you know, because this is the second time I've sold everything that I worked hard for, got rid of everything and started over. So it's the second time. So it wasn't like the first time I'd done it. Like, I was like, I know what I'm doing. It sucks, but if we're going to do it, we'll just do it the right way. So he gets here, we get in the car, and, you know, we drive back. It's like the second time I'm driving halfway across the U.S. or, you know what I mean, from Texas to Oregon. And I get home, and it's, you know, it's not as great as I thought it was going to be. You know, just all these bad memories are kind of just lurking there like little monsters. And my brother just wasn't able to push himself in the way that I'd hoped. And I learned really quickly that you can't force somebody to want to better themselves. It's a choice that they have to make within themselves. And I think the mother in me like kind of wanted to come out and be like, oh, we're going to do this and I'm going to help you get through this. But it's all up to him. Mind you, I just found out I was pregnant.
With the new boyfriend.
Number 4.
with the new one. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't plan on any more kids, you know. I just started feeling back to myself. And so I'm going through this with my brother, and I found out I'm pregnant. I'm like, oh my Lord, I am more fertile than I ever thought. I mean, this is nuts, but a blessing at the same time, you know. So I guess going back home, it was it was hard. And it's hard for me to talk about it because it's still so fresh because this was 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it was temporary, but I knew like just something wasn't right,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. I wanted to try to keep the relationship with the kid's dad civil, you know, because he knew they were coming back, which I thought, okay, great. They're going to get to be able to.
Tell us what you found out.
Oh, Lord. So it wasn't until probably about 3 months into being home, because we got in November of 2017, and we were there for 3 months.
Tell us real quick, how old are your children at this point?
So they're 9, 7, and Gracie was 2, and I was pregnant.
So now what did you find out?
So the kids started to kind of act different. They go with their biological father, and they were just acting different coming home, and things were just kind of like weird. And it wasn't until like I kind of suspected like something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something's not right. And it wasn't until my daughter came to me and she said something really weird that stuck with me. And she had said that, you know, that her dad had made her sleep in the same bed as him.
Oh, God.
And I said, made you? Like, why would someone make you? You're old enough to sleep on the couch or the camp out on the floor. Like, no one should make you. You're 7. You're old enough to understand that. And she's very smart. She's like, yeah, but it just made me feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, okay, like, so I talked to my therapist because I was starting to see a therapist, and I got them involved in a new therapist because I always made sure there's nothing wrong with asking help. Like therapy is so huge, especially when you go through so much, and they were going through a lot, you know? And so, I think the hardest thing for me was trying to, in my mind as a mother, understand why she would say something like that.
Right.
And so I talked to my therapist, and my therapist goes, red flag.
Major.
I said, what do you mean red flag? I said, what did I say? I mean, I'm just telling her, blah, 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 going on and on and on. And she's like, the fact that your daughter says that is a problem to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to report it. Said, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Never been through this before in my life. And I'm
Right.
like, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I've done this too long to know, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to give details, but I'm just going to report it. And so the whole thing opened up. And, you know, Child Protective Services got involved, and it was an absolute nightmare for me because then the stories started coming out. And the stories that I was hearing were a mother's worst nightmare. And I didn't know how to process that because here I am newly pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my grandma just moved in with us too, so I'm taking care of her and going back and forth to help with my brother. And then I find out my kids are talking about things that started happening to them when they were 3 and 4 years old from their biological father.
Both of them?
Both of them. My daughter first, the older daughter came first. And that was like going through the whole Child Protective Services. And then you have to go through like a child advocacy, kids center, abusive center for forensic interviews. And then, you know, the police get involved and stuff like that. And so you don't know how to deal with that.
Mm-mm.
You don't. But then, you know, he's saying this is, you know, the kids are making this up. None of this has happened. And then he's blaming it on me.
Of course.
And saying that, you know, I'm making this up. I'm like, what in your sick mind would you ever think that I would ever think of something like that?
Right.
My kids are my world,
Mm-hmm.
absolute world. And the fact that this is even being spoken about, I have no words but anger.
Mm-hmm.
And so nothing was done because apparently there wasn't enough of like sufficient evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there was enough, but there wasn't enough, if that makes any sense.
It was enough for you to know what was going on, but not enough to prosecute.
Exactly. So I'm thinking in my mind, there's so many emotions going through my head, and it's still hard for me to talk about it because it's still so fresh.
Right.
It's like you think you know this person. How could someone be capable of these things.
So do they have to see him still?
Not right now, no, because it wasn't until after that my son, we caught him doing some things that a 9-year-old should not know what they are.
Mm-hmm.
And we had asked him where he had learned them from, and he said that who, we referred to him as who, because we weren't allowed to speak about him in the house, showed me. And I was like, what do you mean? And this is things that I'm hearing for the first time. And so Alex was like, I'm going to talk to him because I'm a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he'll open up to me. And so, he told me that he opened up and said that, he witnessed him doing things like this, and he was the one that he learned these things from, and that's why he was doing them. And then one story led to another of him seeing inappropriate things, of him doing things with women in front of him. And the details, I'm not going to get into details because it's just not appropriate, but you can kind of get the hint of what happened. And so I called his therapist right away, and I said, I've never known about this. This is new. What's going on? She's like, I need you to come in Wednesday first thing. Perfect. So I get him in there. It was literally 4th of July. Like, I'll never forget it. 1 o'clock. I bring him in there. She goes, he opened up about everything. He's very detailed. He's a very articulate child, which I don't see very often, but these kids know what happened.
Yeah.
And these things did happen. They don't just make things like that up. But here he is saying that they're lying, and so that opened up another case. And we're going through this all over again. And I'm like, dear Lord, I pray that this, protective agent wants to listen to my kids, because I'm listening to my kids and I'm telling them, from what I'm hearing from all these professionals, it's important to tell your child, I believe you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's important for them to know they can trust you.
Yeah.
And, I always made sure to be that person for them. And so lo and behold, it was such a blessing, because we already been through a horrible experience, with my daughter, and they were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They were amazing. And it was like, they heard stories that, were the same stories that were told to the therapist that we heard. And they were like, we're going to put, a protective order in, and you need to get down to the courthouse as soon as possible. And I was like, what? Because there was a policeman there and everything. Like, there was 2 people listening to the same thing. So then, go to the court and you file for an immediate danger order. Never done that before in my life.
Well,
Scariest thing I've ever done.
I wouldn't imagine.
And so I didn't have a lawyer at the time. It was totally God. Like, God put a lawyer in my life, from a system that helps, low income, or who can't afford a lawyer because they're expensive. And so we got a lawyer on that following, like, it was 2 days after, and we were in court. And I was testifying for the first time. It was the scariest thing I've ever had to do. I had all professionals testifying as well. And we were granted this order, which is one of the hardest orders to get granted. So I was like, okay, God, oh my gosh, wow, thank you. I was doing everything I feasibly possibly could as a mother to protect these kids, because that's what you do.
Right.
Whether the state, is going to get involved and do what they're supposed to do, you do what you need to do. You jump through every loop, every hoop, every option you possibly have to make sure things are taken care of, so these kids don't ever have to experience what it is that they've been exposed to, what they've gone through. And so having done that, like, it brought out the mama bear in me.
Yeah.
It brought out this different person, and they didn't see him from that time on, except for when he showed up very, very randomly on Father's Day, and he wasn't supposed to, and just thought that he could be there. It was just stupid. But anyways, my son had to go through forensic interview, and stories came out from him that matched up with, my daughter's. And so their stories match up, and they're like, wow, okay, kids don't make stuff like this up.
No,
well, and they can't.
They don't.
They're not good liars. They wouldn't remember.
No, and my
Like
son
details.
started coming from details when he was 3.
Oh my gosh.
He could tell you where he was, who he was with, what happened, what was going on. Again, the therapist saying he's a very articulate child. He's very smart.
Right.
And, drawing pictures, the pictures that they were drawing were things that kids just don't draw.
Right.
And so, lo and behold, the forensic interviewers found out there was abuse on his half as well. So, and it wasn't just like physical things that had happened, there was sexual things that had happened with both of them. And it's just like hard to talk about without getting like super emotional about it, because like it's one thing to like have to deal with it with one child, but then when you find out it's with both of them in a time that was after a divorce, when you were trying to be a good parent and let them have their time and these things were happening, it's hard to explain like the feelings and emotions that go behind that. Anger, of course, but you just want to be able to protect your kids.
Right.
Because no child should ever have to experience things like that.
Right.
And, it's sad now, it was a fight to try to get back here to Texas. And the fact that we're here is all God. And he's had his hands all over them. And he's given us strength in ways that I don't even know how, but it is him. And, it's going to be a long road because there are things that we're still dealing with.
Right.
There are things that are still fresh in my daughter's head that were happening while we were in Oregon that we weren't aware of. And it's just like so many people, I think, don't want to talk about it.
Right.
But it's like, why? Like, if it's not talked about it, then no one will know how to like
Secrets.
get through it. And, and a child will suffer.
Right.
If you can't like be that parent that is, going to fight.
Right.
Then your child in the long run
will suffer major, I think.
And so I'm seeing it, still, they're going through PTSD from all of it, and emotional outbursts, anger outbursts, you name it, talking about self-image. I'm fat, I'm ugly. Like, my children, not to toot my own horn, are beautiful kids, not just outwardly, but inside their hearts are so beautiful. And so to see them hurting and holding on to a secret, because it's a secret that they hold on to, from everything that I've learned the last year, it really affects a child. It really affects, because they think they're the ones that are in the wrong. And to try to wrap your head around like how someone could do that. Someone that's supposed to protect them.
Yeah, their father.
Someone that's supposed to prevent things like that from happening, set the example, and all of that. Now, just the mention of his name brings out emotions, like bad emotions. And, the kids struggle with so many things now. And it's so sad to me, because it's like it's them, but they're having to deal with it on a level where they understand, but they really don't like know how to process things.
The good thing I see, though, is that you are handling it the way that you are handling it, and they're getting help very young.
Yeah, because you see it all the time. I mean, even like the intervention shows, like you see these people who are like, I was, sexually abused by so-and-so at this age, but I was too afraid to tell, or people didn't believe them, or now it's like this secret that built up. And we always say secrets make you sick, and you have to get it out. And I think you're an amazing mom, and I'm sure that's I can't even imagine what that's like.
Now, tell us really quickly, like all the best to your children, of course. I mean, that is a road. And since you have them in therapy, that they probably needed for a very long time.
Yeah.
Now, you got married.
Yes.
Correct?
I did.
You had your fourth baby.
I did. Yeah.
And then you had to go through yet another struggle because your husband, you did a long distance relationship, correct?
Well, we did at first, but then when we moved to Oregon, we moved together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how is this going?
It's going as best as it can. I mean, he got thrown into the trenches. He got thrown into, obviously, he's never been a parent before. So that whole role in itself is hard to really like take on. And they're big shoes to fill. There's 3 kids, that are looking up to you as a father figure, because obviously what they had is no longer there, and very damaging. And so he's trying to find balance. And then he's learning this has happened. And then he's trying not to get angry, as a man would, and retaliate against the person that's doing it. And so there was a lot of adversity that was thrown in our relationship really early, and it tested the waters, and it still tests it. But marriage was never designed to be easy. It's work every day. And I think the thing that keeps us going is, you know, we obviously see the hearts in one another, and we know what we want to build together and the life we want to give the kids. You know, he is dad to the kids.
Well, he has a new baby.
He has a new baby. He has a new baby. That's another thing. You know, he's a new baby. And, you know, it's just been so many like life-changing events happening in such a short period of time. Like I tell him, the last 6 years of my life, literally as of this Saturday, have been hell. They have been hell. Yes, there's been some time here and there that have been okay and good. And I'm very blessed. My kids are my world, and they're the things that keep me going, you know, but I constantly have to like try to tell him, you know, it's almost like teaching someone that doesn't really know how to deal with certain situations.
But I can't even imagine, like, I feel like when people hear your story, I can't even imagine how many people it will help, or hopefully they can ask their kids the right questions. And that's something that is like a nightmare. Like you wouldn't even think that. But I know my mom was so protective about like even going to friends' houses, or because it does happen. And to think then that that's their father, I mean, that's like unimaginable. And I think it might happen more than we even can imagine that it does. And I would think that you being so brave to open up about all of that, I think that you will help and touch a lot of people. And then I think your children eventually, as they get older, to help people will help them. Because I always feel like when you've gone through something and you help others, it helps yourself and your healing.
Absolutely.
And I think it'll be the best thing for them.
And
as
then
well.
your husband, he, even though is got thrown into all of it, I refer to my husband because I feel like he got thrown into it as well. And he has always gotten out of that. He has so much more, like, people love him. So many more people love him.
More love,
and there's more love to go around. And I feel for you, having lost so much, you guys have an opportunity to build your own family within that big family, make it the best family that you can possibly make. I mean, that's what I did, and it's been the most healing and the most wonderful thing to have that. And that's what I wish for you and pray for you. And I know you can do that.
I think things are going to be so much better for you, especially that you're here.
Oh my gosh. Like being here is
better memories.
It's so, I mean, I'm telling you, it took us 8 months, you know, just with courts and stuff trying to get here because my most, like, the top priority for me and the most important thing for me was making sure my kids felt safe. And in Oregon, they constantly talked about not feeling safe. Right. They constantly didn't want to go here because what happens if we run into him, or what happens if this happens? Or it was learning how to adapt, learning how to listen, like really listen to his kids will, you know, talk your ear off, and, you know, as parents, but with them, it's so crucial to really listen because kids don't know how to process the emotions that they're dealing with.
Right.
You know, and still to this day, like every night I try to make sure to just listen to them.
Yeah.
And if they have something to say, I let them talk.
Right.
Because it's important. Like, it's again,
You've
how
always
you heal.
said that too, to let your kids talk.
You have to listen. You have to find time where you can actually listen, where, like, when no distraction comes in. I've always done that with my kids at bedtime. Like, I will go and spend so much extra time with them
An hour
at bedtime, sometimes an hour. I've done that for 34 years, I feel like. And it takes a lot because it's a lot of time, actually, but that's when they tell you everything. Or if you have them in extracurricular activities and you have to drive them far. Lots of parents don't want to do that. I love it because they can't go anywhere.
Right.
And I don't allow a phone, and you have to have conversations with me.
I think my best conversations were on trips.
Exactly.
Get in the car.
For
so
sure.
I actually like it when places are further because I get to be even closer, and they have to tell me stuff. And
You're also not allowed to not talk to my mom.
no,
Like, No, I don't want to talk about it. Well, you're going to have to. Okay.
That sounds about right.
Can you imagine? Yeah. So you should do that too for some.
Yeah, don't let them say, I don't want to talk about it, because that doesn't help. Or I've never allowed closed doors. My house doors are open. You cannot, you try to slam the door one time. When they get teenagers, they're going to try it. Don't let it happen. Like, that's when there's big war in my house, because that's not going to happen.
I think it's too, right now, it's dealing with the emotions as they come, because all these emotions are new for all of us.
Of course.
The
And they're
anger,
still so young.
the
They're
anger
so young.
is so intense, like the anger, and it breaks my heart, because a child should never have to endure these type of things, should never have to go with these types of things. And my kids have not just been able to be kids. They've kind of had to go and grow up on a different level and go through this horrible time and relive these moments. And I think I am so proud of them for being able to come forward, and talk about it and talk about whatever's on their heart. But I think having to adapt to these emotions that come like out of the nowhere, like come out of the blue, it can be alarming.
Yeah.
'Cause you're like, where's that coming from? Or the attitudes, or, kids just acting out.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I've looked at kids. I've worked with kids a lot, and not that they've gone through that, but I think that every household and family is different in what they struggle with and what goes on. And I feel like when I see children that are so stressed, it is always concerning to me, because I'm like, you'll have your adulthood to have
exactly.
like anxiety, and there are kids who and I don't know what's going on in their homes, not with all of them, but I see some of them who are stressed at like 8, 9, and you hear about, kids committing suicide, and you hear about such a young age, and you're like, why are these kids feeling so much
They're
stress?
too afraid to open up too, which is scary.
Yeah.
It's so scary. And luckily they have outlets right
Yeah.
now, and we try to keep them busy, because my aunt, she's been a huge part of everything being here, but she's like, keep them busy. We'll keep their minds in good places, keep them positive. So they're in hip hop dance.
Yeah.
They're part of a Christian hip hop ministry. So they dance for her, 2 times a week and go and perform. They love
great.
that. My son's an amazing artist. It's his escape. He's created characters and wants to be a YouTube star, so he says, and I want to be able to support them in anything that they want to do, because I feel right now it's so crucial.
For sure.
My daughter wants to do ballet and gymnastics, and I'm like, well, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because I think that, I mean, them not having an outlet is only going to be it's going to be harder for them.
No, it's
You're
the
not going
best
to have an
thing.
escape.
You're doing the best things, I feel like.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, because I think for me, there's a lot of misconceptions of people that will look at you.
Sorry.
And I'm sure you kind of understand what I mean. They look at you and you look a certain way, right? Oh, she's so pretty. She doesn't have any problems in her life. Life's so easy for her. And I'm just like,
You have no
if you
idea.
only knew. And so I think that's why it's so important to finally come and talk about it. And granted, it's not easy to talk about, but I think for people to understand, we all walk different walks of life. We all have a testimony. We all have a different purpose in this life. But if we don't share it, how can we help other people?
Right.
People are longing and feeling, I'm alone in this. I'm the only person going through this, because I've been there, done that. I understand how that feels. And people are going through finding out everything that we just found out, but they feel maybe they don't have the hope and the help that, maybe that we have to offer. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to just talk about it, because I get sick and tired of people judging.
I don't blame you. Everything you just said, right now, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like you wish that you could scream that for everybody to understand, because
and
it's
thank
hard.
you for being so brave, because
So brave.
you are the example we always give. When you are really truly honest and you tell everything, that is when it's most helpful. That's when people really get help, because when you just tell a little, they still can't understand it.
When you'll touch so many people, honestly, what you'll do for people, and if you come out and share and see everything you've said, to be that sounding board for people. I can tell you that some people we've had on here that do that have done. I mean, Valerie is a good example. Our guest from so many episodes, if you've listened to us for a long time, but she has done I mean, her
Turned
life has turned around
Really?
from reaching out, and people, she said people in the grocery store heard her story.
Oh, wow.
And we're touched by it.
Her kids' teachers. I mean, and there was a lot of judging going on in her
On
life too.
yeah.
And now when they heard it, now
They're
it's
like, now we
totally
understand.
different.
It's like you understand because like I always tell my kids and the way that they understand, you know, with kids that they're going to school with, it's like never judge a book by its cover
Never.
because you never
No.
know the story that hides within.
Yeah.
I always tell them that. I said they could be hurting. They could be going through some really bad things at home, and that's why they're acting the way you are. But always set the example. Always be the leader. Always be the kind person. Respect others and treat others the way you want to be treated. And I feel constantly like telling them that will only help them. You know, but then it goes again to being adults.
Right.
You know, people are mean.
Yeah.
People will assume they'll judge just by looking at you because you're a beautiful person or you're, you know, you look a certain way or you're trying to do something with, you know, your career, like my makeup. And I just get sick and tired of people just assuming. It's just like, you know what?
She's had it so easy.
Oh, no. It's taken me a lot of what I say growing pains to be the woman that I am today and to know what it is that I want out of life and how I want to help other people, especially women. Like that makes my heart like light on fire.
Hi, Miss Polly. We have to play the jingle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hi.
All right. Let's
Where's my
laughing.
jingle?
It's coming.
give me a little introduction again, and then I'll play the intro.
Oh, sorry.
Like,
In our show, we do a segment with Miss Polly, and Miss Polly is actually super educated and smart about certain subjects. And this subject matter we just talked about, we're gonna get, and she actually went through this herself in her own life with her own.
Oh.
This is Penis and Pussy Talk.
With Miss Polly.
Hi, Miss Polly.
Hello.
I wanted to.
Penis pussy talk.
I wanted to tell you that our guest today, Miss Kyrie, is here, and she has 4 beautiful children, but 2 of them, they're 9 and what did you say?
They're 10 and
10.
10 and 8. now.
10 and 8, and they have gone through some sexual abuse by their dad. And the question to you today is sexual abuse in children with parents, and wanted to get your take on it. And I know that we said we actually need to do an episode on that as well when you come visit next time. But I just want to take the opportunity and have you talk for a few minutes to Kyrie and our listeners.
Awesome. So at what age did the abuse occur, if you don't mind me asking?
It started when they were 3 and 4.
Oh, my Lanta. Yeah. So mine was actually from 13 to 18, which puts a different spin on things in some respect, but at the same time, definitely, first and foremost, any child that suffers that kind of abuse, find a good therapist.
Yeah,
Fine.
she's doing
on
that. Yeah.
Yes. It's so incredibly important and ongoing. It's a never-ending. It's never a thing that's going to be fixed. It's not an instant fix-all. One therapy session or a year in therapy is not going to cure it. There's always going to be triggers.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be that, and how you deal with the parent. I kept my mouth shut for 25 years and saw the abuser on a very consistent basis after the abuse. So to mitigate that is how you deal with that is critical in terms of the health of the child and the children.
Mm-hmm.
Well, luckily, she has done that.
Mm-hmm.
So
luckily
they
she
don't.
has taken that. They don't have to see him. And let's commit as soon as you come here. Let's do an episode on this whole thing, because that is really important. I feel like that, because it's happening to our children.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot, I mean, with this whole Me Too thing, a lot of it came out, in various ways that were unexpected for a lot of parents. And the biggest thing that I can tell a parent who's the other parent, so to speak, in this, not the abuser, but, they're also a victim, okay? They are the ones that are going to suffer as well. And how, because there's a lot to handle. There's a lot of information, there's a lot of anguish, and how they react and if they believe their child, too. That's so important.
Oh, wow. That's what we just talked about that. That's crazy. It's like you were here. I mean, it's insane. Oh, wow.
I was there.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, Miss Polly, thank you so much, and we appreciate you, and we will
Love you.
Thank you.
we will call
I
you.
love you, too.
We'll call you in a little bit.
Bye.
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 Okay, now let's get to our question of the day.
The two Posh girls ask the question of the day.
I really love her voice.
I do
know,
too, man.
it's so
I think we're gonna use her for some more stuff because that's awesome.
The question of the day is, what is your favorite board game?
Oh,
Board game?
A game to play with.
I'm a big fan of Cards Against Humanity.
Oh my gosh,
which
my
y'all
favorite.
probably know.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
It's our favorite.
We've,
and then
we've done
newest-
that before.
I need dirtier cards because they're getting boring.
There's another one.
that meme game? Is that what it's
No,
called?
it's called Joking Hazard, which is kind of the same thing, but
dirtier?
Dirtier.
and you put together like a comic, basically. It's like panels of a
Oh.
comic that you put
That's
together.
pretty
That one's
funny.
really fun.
But
But also like Candyland.
I haven't played like a board
That's a
game in
fun game.
forever. Do you have one? I mean, you have kids. You have little kids. Maybe you play with them.
It's not really a board game, but it's a funny game. It's called Watch Your Mouth.
Oh,
It's where you put those little plastic guards in your
Oh,
mouth.
yeah. That is funny.
And try to read what the
It
person's
looks
saying.
too disgusting.
Well, that always
Oh.
makes me laugh so hard that I start drooling when I have that thing in my mouth. I was like, we played that on a ski trip, and that is a good one. That's
It's
probably
fun.
one of my favorites too. If you are like around people that are new to it, I laughed so hard.
I hate it.
You don't like the thing in your mouth. She wouldn't like the thing in her
I
mouth.
would too, but my teeth are gross.
I think it's so funny. I'll do it. We're taking like selfies and stuff. Yeah, that one. I don't know.
I always liked Trouble was my
Oh,
favorite
yeah.
board
yeah,
game.
Trouble.
I don't
Or
know
the-
why.
I like the Mancala. I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah.
the little.
That is a nice one.
the
too.
beads. I think that's really all.
Well, that brings us to the end of our show today. Kyrie, thank you again.
So
Thank you.
give us
Thank
your
you.
what an
social media.
amazing story.
Yeah, what a testimony you have. And we
Yes.
want your social media handles because
Yes.
I want everyone to reach out to you and get their makeup done.
Oh,
Because you're
thank you.
amazing.
I'm already following you because I need that work
Oh,
done.
hey. We'll beat that face. Just kidding. So Facebook and Instagram, if you look up Beauty by Kyrie, Kyrie, all together, you will find me on there.
Yes. Awesome.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
Thank you.